In the streets of 19th-century Seville, a simple love is tested by temptation and betrayal. This is the story of Martin, Maria, and Camila, where fate changes everything.
Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata.
One afternoon in Seville, Maria, a young country girl, was heading towards the city square to meet her lover. Across from the square stood the tobacco factory, where many gypsy women worked. One of the most famous of these women was Camila, who was extremely beautiful and enchanting, but also flirtatious and playful. Maria asked one of the soldiers about Martin, her fiancé, and the soldier told her that Martin would arrive shortly, so Maria decided to leave and come back later. A while later, Martin entered with his new guard. At the same time, the cigarette-selling women exited the factory and began laughing and chatting with the young soldiers. Most of the soldiers inquired about Camila until she entered the square, singing and dancing. All the soldiers and men around the square were captivated by her and the magic of her voice. However, Martin, who had been in love with Maria until that moment, paid no attention to Camila. This lack of attention caught Camila's interest. Camila, among the group of men, threw a beautiful flower towards Martin. Martin, who had never shown any interest in Camila and remained devoted to Maria, hesitated upon seeing her gesture and flirtations. A new flame of desire was sparked in his heart. The bell of the tobacco factory rang, and the women returned to the factory. Camila gave Martin a mischievous smile and left. Moments later, Maria returned and handed Martin a letter from his mother. After a brief conversation with Martin, Maria said goodbye and left. Martin opened the letter and read that his mother had asked him to return home and marry Maria. Touched by the letter, Martin decided to stay loyal to Maria. But just then, a commotion from inside the factory broke the silence, and it was reported that Camila had gotten into a fight with another woman and injured her. Zuniga, the military officer of Seville, ordered that Camila be thrown into jail and instructed Martin to take responsibility for her case. Martin, along with Camila, entered the police station where he locked her up in a cell and sat at the desk. But Camila began to speak, laughing and teasing, asking to be let out so they could talk more comfortably, assuring him she wouldn't escape. After complimenting Martin, Camila eventually told him she loved him and, at that moment, kissed his lips. With a playful smile, she left the station without anyone noticing. When Zuniga arrived at the station and found out Camila was missing, he blamed Martin for her escape, declaring that Martin himself would have to stay in jail for a month in place of Camila. A month later, Camila and her friends were performing lively dances and songs at the caravanserai, filling the air with joy and excitement.
La 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 la, la casa del merengue. La 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 la.
Zuniga and a few of his officers sat in a corner of the hall, drinking and observing the scene. After the dance ended, as Camila stood aside catching her breath, Zuniga approached her and attempted to pull her into his arms. But Camila quickly stepped back, her voice firm as she said, "I love Martin and cannot be with another man." Zuniga, visibly displeased, scoffed and replied, "Martin has been released from prison." Before Camila could process this news, the room erupted with cheers as a voice announced the arrival of Orlando, the famous bullfighter. With his captivating charisma, Orlando introduced himself through a charming song, instantly catching Camila's attention. He approached her and expressed his desire to get to know her better, but Camila, whose heart still belonged to Martin, declined his advances. As the night wore on, the crowd grew louder and more chaotic. The owner of the caravanserai eventually asked everyone to leave, except for Camila and her close companions. Left alone in the now quieter space, they began to relax. Later in the night, two smugglers sneaked into the caravanserai. They approached Camila and her friends with an offer to join their smuggling operation. However, Camila, still clinging to her memories of Martine, refused their proposition and chose to stay behind. It wasn't long before Martine himself entered the caravanserai. Overjoyed, Camila ran to him, grabbed his hand and led him to an upstairs room. In the privacy of the room, they locked eyes and surrendered to their passion. But their moment was interrupted by the blaring sound of soldiers' trumpets outside. Martine, torn between his duties and his love, decided he had to leave the caravanserai to fulfill his responsibilities. This decision sparked a heated argument between them, leaving Camila heartbroken. She couldn't understand why Martine would abandon her and reject even the smuggler's tempting offer. As their argument subsided, Zuniga barged in and chastised Martine for neglecting his responsibilities. His scorn was relentless, but before Martine could respond, the two smugglers reappeared. Zuniga instantly recognized them, and a fierce confrontation ensued. In the chaos, the smugglers managed to escape, leaving Zuniga seething with anger. He turned his wrath back on Martine, blaming him for their escape. Exhausted by Zuniga's constant berating and the weight of his conflicted emotions, Martine decided to leave the caravanserai for good. Camila, who had witnessed the entire ordeal, ran after him. She pleaded with him to abandon his duties and join her in the world of the smugglers. "I promise you," she said, her voice trembling with determination, "we can start a new life together." Overwhelmed by his love for Camila, Martine agreed to her plan and chose to join the smugglers, stepping into a new and uncertain chapter of his life.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and like.
Martine and Camila began their new life with the smugglers in the mountain forests. However, for Martine, always a disciplined and dutiful man, this lifestyle of chaos and lawlessness felt alien and unbearable. He struggled to adapt to the carefree and adventurous ways of Camila, and their differences gradually led to constant arguments. Meanwhile, Martine was tormented by thoughts of his mother, waiting for him in their village, which only deepened his inner conflict. Camila, growing weary of her love for Martine and losing interest in their strained relationship, suggested that he return home. Though this suggestion deeply hurt Martine, he eventually decided to return to his duties, hoping to regain control of the situation and convince Camila to come back to Seville with him. One night, Camila turned to her tarot cards and discovered a chilling prediction. The cards foretold death for both her and Martine. This ominous prophecy cast a dark shadow over their already fragile bond. A few nights later, the smugglers planned to transport their goods through a route under Martine's watch. They devised a scheme to distract the soldiers with the help of women and deception. That same night, Maria, who had ventured into the forest to meet Martine and speak with him, heard a gunshot and quickly hid behind the trees. The shot had been fired by Martine as a warning to Orlando, the famous bullfighter, who had approached him. Orlando, now face-to-face with Martine, inquired about a young woman rumored to be in the forest with a group of smugglers. Martine demanded more details, and Orlando explained that he had heard of a woman who had fallen in love with a soldier, a man who went to prison and deserted his duties for her. However, it seemed the two had since parted ways, as the woman was unfaithful and reckless. Angered by Orlando's words, Martine snapped, "That soldier is me, and the woman you speak of is Camila." This revelation escalated the tension, and the two men clashed in a fierce fight. Suddenly, Camila appeared, separating them before things could get worse. Orlando, who had come to the forest searching for Camila, was delighted to see her, his happiness sparking jealousy and rage in Martine. He pleaded with Camila to remain loyal to him, but she made it clear that her feelings for him were gone. That moment, Maria, who had been watching the scene unfold from behind the trees, stepped out. Her unexpected appearance startled everyone. She begged Martine to let go of Camila and return to his life. Furious at her intervention, Martine ignored Maria's pleas until she revealed devastating news. Martine's mother was gravely ill. The news shook Martine to his core. Torn between his love for Camila and his duty to his mother, he ultimately chose to leave Camila and return to his village, determined to be by his mother's side in her time of need. The next day, Martin decided to leave the barracks and return to his village. On his way, he heard the noise of a lively crowd. It was the day of the bullfighting competition. Curious, he made his way toward the arena. From a distance, he spotted Camila and Orlando standing together, laughing and looking happy. The sight pierced Martin's heart, igniting a fire of anger within him. He decided to postpone his journey home and headed toward the bullfighting ring. As Martin approached the scene, Camila's friends noticed his furious demeanor. They quickly went to warn her, telling her that Martin was on his way and appeared to be in a rage. But Camila, tired of Martin's love and persistence, dismissed their warnings. Crowds surged toward the bullfighting arena, eager to witness Orlando's performance. Amid the excitement, Martin found an opportunity to confront Camila in a corner. His voice trembling with desperation, he begged her to forget everything, leave with him, and start a new life together back in their village. Camila, however, responded with resolute determination. She told Martin she no longer loved him and that her heart now belonged to Orlando. Her words felt like a dagger thrust into Martin's chest. Overwhelmed with rage and despair, Martin lost control. In a moment of blind fury, he pulled out a knife and lunged at Camila. Camila fell to the ground, lifeless, as the spectators nearby cheered for Orlando's performance, oblivious to the tragedy that had just unfolded. Stunned and consumed by grief, Martin knelt beside Camila's lifeless body. Tears streamed down his face as he wailed for the love that had ended in such a bitter and tragic way.